All right, boom. So I'm back with another one. No, but on a serious note, I really owe myself a very public apology and acknowledgement. And this is really coming from like a place of recognizing that as part of this healing journey, as part of this growing journey, as a part of this getting to know myself and love myself even more journey, I owe myself acknowledgement of past things that I could look back on and go, you weren't very fair with yourself. You weren't very nice to yourself. And you owe yourself so much more than that because you did the best with what you knew how at the time. And as much as I feel like, as much as we all say we love ourselves and I support myself and I'm my biggest cheerleader, sometimes we really are not. And you might sit and just think about some decisions you made and you realize that you weren't very nice to yourself or fair. And specifically to 2017 Faith, specifically to 2017 G, to specifically to 2017 me, this is just a love letter to myself, a video love letter, if you will, that I'm inviting you all into, but just to acknowledge myself at that time and acknowledge my efforts and my failures and how much growth I did from that time. So much happened in 2017 and 2018. And I feel like at some point I just tried to like delete it, or I just tried to like remove it from my timeline. Like that's a thing. But like there was a lot that happened as far as personal growth that I feel like I never really gave myself enough credit for. So, dear me, you are incredible, first of all. Let's start there. All of your dreams and ideas and goals and ways that you connect people and ways that you make people feel is all so very valid. And you are so very, very valuable. You are very creative. You are a friend and you see the best in things and you try to share that. You try to make things better, even when people didn't ask. I'm glad you moved on from that. But you see the best in things and you try to make things better. You try to make things grow. And you just are a caring individual. And you built Bricks and Brownstones with that very concept in mind. You loved your city so much. You loved North. And you had moved back home and you had decided you were going to try to make something of your own that you yourself would want to attend. As a young Black professional, you saw there was such an opportunity to collaborate with the bars and the clubs and the restaurants that we had right there in the city and make them desirable enough where people your age, people just like you, would want to come and support instead of running to New York City for everything, running to outside towns to find fun, to find bars, to find fun things to do with your friends. And you saw that as necessary. There was enough space, there was enough opportunity. The bars were there, the clubs were there, the restaurants were there, and you saw a need. And you were creative enough to create an entire business around it, Bricks and Brownstones. And that was your baby. That was your baby. And you loved her so much. You underestimated the time, the care, and the growth it would take to actually see your goals to fruition. And I think you had an unrealistic expectation of what that would look like for you. And that's fair. That's okay to say now. But I think you were really hard on yourself about it. And that's business, baby. Sometimes it's going to take longer. Sometimes it's going to take a lot more effort. It's going to take the tears. It's going to take the feeling like you're failing, but you were failing forward. Little did you know, you were failing forward. You were learning how to collaborate with others. You were learning how to build something from scratch, from the ground up. And also you were trying to do everything on your own. And I still think back and I love the energy that you had. I love the big goals and dreams that you had at the time, but you didn't have to do everything on your own. And I was so proud of you when you collaborated with Alex. She was amazing. She was throwing events also. And I felt like you felt something there. There's a real chance for this to grow. But then money started getting tight. You was running through your savings. And at the time, you didn't really have too many things to pay for, but it started feeling like people were watching and you didn't have anything to show for it. People were watching, but you had so much to show for it. And I know it doesn't feel like it because you didn't have hundreds of people at your event, but babe, you threw a bar crawl event with 2 bars that at the time weren't getting that much traffic on the nights that you chose to do it. And you had so much support, so many friends and family members and people around you. They rallied around you. They showed up. They bought tickets. Okay, they commented how well the event went. The drinks were great. You did good. You did well. All you had to do was stick to it. Just be consistent. Show up. Show up consistently for Bricks and Brownstones. Babe, you did 2 brunches. And your friends and family showed up again. The support. And you were starting to gain just a tiny little bit of traction. It would have taken a little bit more growth. It would have taken consistently putting on these events, consistently watching it grow, consistently seeing more people besides just family and friends. Maybe you started feeling like it was a burden to have your family and friends constantly come and support you. But that just goes to show how loved you are, how supported you are, that they want to show up for you because they didn't have to, but they did it anyway. I also think there was just a layer of feeling like you needed to prove yourself to them, to people watching. And babe, you don't have anything to prove to anybody. You had a goal, you had a dream, you built it from the ground up, you started working on it, and they supported you and they showed up for you. You supported you, you showed up for you. I think that's amazing. And you should give yourself a lot more credit for that. You then decided to quit and you just decided to maybe it wasn't worth it. It wasn't a good time. We'll come back to it. You got the opportunity to do a speed dating event and you wanted to partner with a local radio show at the time. Because at the time, Newark had a few radio shows that were really popular. This was before podcasts were popular. This is before people was grabbing mics and just, chatting. But at the time, Newark had a little phase where everybody kind of had a radio show, which was cool. That was amazing. Maybe I'm using amazing a little bit, whatever. But it was cool. I loved how everyone wanted to be creative and share their perspectives. It was great. And so you found one that you realized there was an opportunity to collaborate. You started thinking about what these partnerships could look like. And so we birthed Shoot Your Shot Sundays, which was supposed to be a series, a speed dating series. And we wanted to partner with The Confessional, which at the time was a radio show that focused on love, relationships, sex, intimacy, all those cool things that people love to talk about. And it was such a cool event that you were planning for. There was a soul food restaurant on a one-way block, and there was such an opportunity to bring more traffic in, especially a younger crowd of, young professionals, young creatives, and to kind of merge that dating scene, that event scene, that creative scene with this soul food restaurant. And you did that. And again, your family, friends, they showed up. You invited people, you promoted it from the ground up, they showed up. And was it tens of millions of people there? No. You maybe had about 30 people there, but they showed up and you had this idea and you brought it to fruition. It didn't look exactly the way you wanted it to look. It didn't go exactly the way you wanted it to go, but you brought it to fruition. You should be proud of yourself. Bricks and Brownstones was your baby and you let her go so fast, but that's a learning lesson in itself. And I think you should really forgive yourself for how you let it go. Forgive yourself for what you felt like was a failure. Forgive yourself for what you felt like might have been embarrassing. But it wasn't. You built something from the ground up. You watched it grow. You decided at the time it wasn't something that you wanted to keep pursuing, and you moved on. But Bricks and Brownstones still deserves her flowers. You still deserve the acknowledgement, the care. And I think you were hard on yourself because you had these unrealistic expectations of what your success at that time would look like. And that's okay too. I feel like today's me could look back on it and just realize that, like, you did a cool thing and it's a part of what made you who you are. It's a part of what made you you. Now you have an idea, you build it from the ground up, and yeah, we're working on the execution part of it all where we might build things and we don't share them. And I think a little bit of that comes from the shame of having done that before and it not working out quite the way you wanted it to work out. Which is why we need to acknowledge that part. We need to acknowledge younger Faith, younger G. We need to acknowledge Bricks and Brownstones because I think that's holding you back just a little bit. Bricks and Brownstones was amazing for who she was. And you moved on, but you did something great. You did something amazing. And all your new projects, all your new business ideas, all your new ventures have a right to come to fruition. They have a right to be shared. They have a right to be promoted and loved by you the same way Bricks and Brownstones was at the time. And you're not the same person you were before. You know you can't do everything alone. You know you have love and support around you. And you know that people only do things because they want to, not because they have to. And now you're older, you're more mature. You love yourself, you acknowledge yourself, and you know that there's no such thing as perfection. But I also want you to know that regardless of how good you think your work is, regardless of how good you think your idea is, if you're passionate about it, if you've put the work into it, it deserves to be shared because it's a part of you. And no, you don't have to share all your work. You don't have to share all your things, but you're such a sharing, giving girl, caring girl that it's a shame that you are not sharing your things for the sake of it might not be good enough, for the sake of feeling like it might not be successful, it might not go quite the way I want it to go. Babe, it's time to move on. Bricks and Brownstones deserves her flowers. You deserve a hug for that time. And I'm proud of you. And I'm proud of Bricks and Brownstones. And I just want this video to feel like a love letter to you. Because you deserve it. And I can't wait to see what else you bring to fruition. So here's to us. Here's to 2017, 2018 me. Here's to 2025 me. And all the things that I'm building and the me I'll be tomorrow. She'll never be perfect. But you gotta love yourself regardless. Toast. That's good.